Hey there, where are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you love stories about incredible transformations and people who refuse to give up, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. You're about to witness one of the most inspiring journeys from the bottom to the top. Let's dive in. The rain hammered Atlanta's streets with relentless fury, each drop echoing Claire Thompson's inner turmoil as she walked through the business district. Her yellow cleaning uniform clung to her shoulders, soaked despite the umbrella that had given up its battle against the wind 3 blocks ago. But the weather was nothing compared to the storm raging in her chest. 26 years old, with a bachelor's degree in business administration earned through grueling night classes, Claire had spent the last 3 years cleaning the very offices where she should have been making strategic decisions. Not by choice, but by necessity. Her father's medical debts had crushed any dreams of climbing corporate ladders the traditional way. Today was different. Today, everything had changed. "They can't do this," she whispered to herself, her breath forming small clouds in the cold air. "They just can't." The memory of this morning's announcement still burned fresh. Dylan Mitchell, Tech Solutions' 35-year-old CEO, had coldly delivered the news to the cleaning staff gathered in the basement conference room. 3 people were being laid off, effective immediately. No explanations, no alternatives, just corporate efficiency at its most ruthless. Marcus Williams, 45, whose autistic son required expensive therapy sessions. Dorothy Brown, 52, who had become the guardian of 3 orphaned grandchildren after her daughter's accident. Robert Davis, 38, just months away from taking the civil service exam that would finally lift him out of poverty. All gone, all discarded, like yesterday's newspapers. Claire's phone buzzed. A text from Sandra Martinez, her supervisor and mentor. "Where are you?" "Dylan wants to see you in his office." Her heart stopped. Was she next? As she approached the gleaming Tech Solutions building, its 40-story glass facade reflecting her distorted image, Claire made a decision that would change everything. She wouldn't just go to Dylan's office to receive her termination notice, she would go to deliver her own message. What will Claire discover when she enters the lion's den? The elevator's soft hum did nothing to calm Claire's racing heart as she ascended to the executive floor. Floor by floor, she passed the world she had observed from the outside, the marketing department with its creative chaos, the finance floor with its sterile precision, the legal department with its imposing silence. She had studied this company for 3 years, not as an employee, but as a detective. While others saw her as invisible furniture, Claire had been watching, learning, documenting every inefficiency, every waste, every missed opportunity. The 35th floor was a different universe. Marble floors replaced industrial carpeting. Original artwork hung where safety notices usually lived. The air even smelled expensive, carrying hints of leather and success. Dylan Mitchell's office occupied the corner, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Atlanta's skyline. Through the glass walls, Claire could see him pacing behind his mahogany desk, his phone pressed to his ear, gesturing animatedly at charts and projections. "Cost optimization is non-negotiable, Harrison. These people are replaceable. Find me 10% more savings by Friday or find yourself a new job." Claire's blood boiled. Replaceable. That's how he saw them. Numbers on a spreadsheet, not human beings with families, dreams and mortgages. She knocked on the doorframe, her cleaning cart deliberately left in the hallway like a battle standard. Dylan glanced up, irritation flashing across his features. He held up one finger, the universal gesture for wait, and continued his conversation as if she didn't exist. "Actually, Harrison, let me call you back. Apparently the help needs something." He ended the call and looked at her with the expression of a man interrupted during surgery. "I don't have time for cleaning schedules right now. Whatever it is, handle it with Sandra." Claire stepped into his office uninvited, closing the door behind her. The click echoed like a gunshot. "Mr. Mitchell, I need to speak with you about the layoffs." Dylan's eyebrows shot up. In his 5 years as CEO, no cleaning staff member had ever addressed him directly, let alone entered his office without permission. "I'm sorry, you are?" "Claire Thompson, and I'm here to present a proposal that can save 60% of what you intend to cut, without firing anyone." What audacious plan does Claire have that could change everything? Dylan Mitchell leaned back in his leather chair, studying Claire with new interest. In his expensive suit and perfectly styled hair, he looked like the poster child for corporate success. But his eyes held something Claire hadn't expected: curiosity. "You want to make a proposal? You realize I have an MBA from Wharton and 15 years of experience running companies, right?" Claire pulled a worn manila folder from inside her uniform jacket. "And I have a bachelor's in business administration and 3 years of studying this company from the ground up. Sometimes the best view comes from the bottom." She opened her folder, revealing meticulously organized documents, charts, and calculations, all handwritten in her precise script. "You fired 3 employees to save $3,000 monthly. That's $36,000 annually, but look at this." Claire spread her papers across his pristine desk, her fingers tracing columns of numbers with the confidence of a seasoned analyst. "Unnecessary IT consulting. $5,000 monthly for problems Robert could solve in his sleep. He's been taking advanced technical courses for 2 years. She pointed to a detailed breakdown. "Outsourced security company, $4,000 monthly, when Marcus has 8 years of military police experience and would work for half that." Dylan found himself leaning forward, drawn into her presentation despite himself. "Material waste," Claire continued, $2,700 monthly in poorly managed supplies. I've tracked every order for 6 months, 60% waste ratio." She showed him spreadsheets filled with supply orders, usage rates, and disposal records. "And my personal favorite," she said, pulling out photographs taken with her phone, "expensive external meetings. $6,700 monthly in hotel conference rooms, when we have 3 unused meeting spaces on floors 12, 18, and 23 that haven't been booked once this quarter." Dylan stared at the papers, his expression shifting from condescension to confusion to something approaching respect. "Where did you get all this information?" "I clean your offices, Mr. Mitchell. I empty your trash cans. I dust your computers while they're still logged in. I overhear your phone calls while you pretend I don't exist." Claire's voice carried no accusation, just matter-of-fact observation. "You see a cleaning lady. I see a business analyst with unprecedented access to operational data." The silence stretched between them like a bridge neither was sure they wanted to cross. "Total monthly waste, $18,400, more than 6 times what you'd save with the layoffs. Annual waste, $220,800. Dylan picked up one of her handwritten charts, studying the meticulous calculations. "And you believe you can eliminate all of this?" Claire met his gaze without flinching. "I don't believe it, Mr. Mitchell." "I know it. Will Dylan take the bait, or will Claire's boldness backfire spectacularly?" The rain continued its assault on the windows, creating a percussion soundtrack to the most important conversation of Claire's life. Dylan Mitchell stood and walked to his window, his hands clasped behind his back, processing what he'd just heard. "Let me get this straight," he said, not turning around. "You want me to believe that a cleaning lady has identified nearly $250,000 in annual waste that my entire executive team missed?" "Former cleaning lady," Claire corrected quietly. "At least, I hope so." Dylan turned, surprise flickering across his features. "You're asking for a job?" "I'm asking for an opportunity to prove that competence has nothing to do with the uniform someone wears." Claire gathered her papers with steady hands. "Give me 1 week. Let me implement these changes. If I save the company even half of what I've projected, we discuss my position. If I fail, I'll resign and you never have to see me again." The offer hung in the air like a challenge to a duel. Dylan returned to his desk, studying her with the intensity of a poker player trying to read a bluff. "You realize what you're suggesting is impossible, right? These changes would require cooperation from multiple departments, vendor renegotiations, policy overhauls, all of which I've already researched and prepared preliminary proposals for." Claire opened another section of her folder, revealing detailed implementation timelines, contact information for alternative vendors, and draft emails to department heads. Dylan shook his head slowly. "This is insane. This is efficient." Claire stood, smoothing down her uniform. "You have 2 choices, Mr. Mitchell. Fire 3 good people to save $36,000 annually, or give me 1 week to save you over $200,000. From a pure business standpoint, which makes more sense?" The CEO sat heavily in his chair, running his hands through his hair. In 15 years of corporate leadership, no one had ever put him in this position. The sheer audacity of it was almost admirable. 1 week, he said finally. But I want daily reports. And if you fail, I won't fail. Claire closed her folder. But I have one condition. Dylan's eyebrows shot up. You have a condition? The 3 employees you fired today, Marcus, Dorothy, and Robert, they stay on payroll during my trial week. If I succeed, they get their jobs back. If I fail, you can fire all 4 of us. The silence that followed was deafening. Dylan stared at her as if she'd just declared war on gravity itself. You're betting your career on people who were already terminated. I'm betting their careers on my ability to prove their value. Claire moved toward the door. Is it a deal, Mr. Mitchell? Dylan looked at her for a long moment, then at the papers spread across his desk, then back at her. You start Monday, 7 days to save your job and theirs. As Claire reached for the door handle, Dylan called out, Thompson? She turned back. This better not be the biggest mistake of my career. Claire smiled for the first time that day. Mr. Mitchell, this is going to be the best decision you've ever made. Can Claire possibly deliver on her impossible promises, or has she just sealed her fate? Monday morning arrived with crisp autumn air and the weight of expectation. Claire stood outside Tech Solutions at 5:30 a.m., watching the first employees filter into the building. She had barely slept over the weekend, her mind racing with implementations, calculations, and the terrifying possibility of failure. Her plan was simple in concept, complex in execution. Work her regular cleaning shifts while simultaneously revolutionizing company operations. 16-hour days for 7 straight days. Sandra Martinez found her in the supply closet at 6 a.m., organizing inventory with the precision of a military quartermaster. Mija, are you insane? Sandra whispered in her mix of English and Spanish. Dylan Mitchell? You challenged Dylan Mitchell? Claire didn't look up from her counting. I presented him with a business opportunity. You walked into the lion's cage wearing a meat suit. Sandra grabbed Claire's arm. These corporate types, they don't like to be shown up by people like us. People like us? Claire finally met her mentor's worried gaze. Sandra, you've been managing a team of 12 people for 8 years. You schedule, budget, supervise, and troubleshoot. In any other context, you'd be called an operations manager. The only difference is your uniform. Sandra was quiet for a moment, then squeezed Claire's hand. What do you need? For the next hour, Claire outlined her battle plan. Sandra would cover some of her cleaning duties, allowing Claire crucial time for research and vendor calls. In return, Claire would make sure Sandra received the recognition and compensation she deserved. By 8 a.m., Claire had already made her first victory. A phone call to Techno Support, the IT consulting firm, revealed they'd been charging premium rates for basic maintenance issues. When Claire mentioned that she had documentation of their overcharges and a potential replacement, their tune changed quickly. A revised contract arrived by email before lunch, cutting costs by 60%. Dylan's assistant, Jessica, delivered his first request for an update at 10 a.m. Mr. Mitchell wants to know what you've accomplished so far. Claire handed her a single sheet of paper with the IT contract savings highlighted. $2,400 monthly, $28,800 annually. Day 1. Jessica read the paper twice before taking it back upstairs, shaking her head in disbelief. But the real challenge was just beginning. Tuesday brought Claire's first real test, the security contract. Secure Guard Systems had been providing Tech Solutions with overnight security for 3 years, and their representative, Bill Crawford, didn't appreciate being told his services were overpriced. Listen, sweetheart, Bill said, his patronizing tone making Claire's teeth clench. Corporate security isn't about hiring any yahoo with a flashlight. We provide trained professionals. Claire had requested the meeting be held in Conference Room B on the 12th floor, one of the unused spaces she'd identified. The room was pristine, equipped with a smart board and video conferencing system, and hadn't been booked once in the previous quarter. Mr. Crawford, I've reviewed your staff rotation records. 70% of your guards have less experience than Marcus Williams, who you replaced. He has 8 years military police, 3 tours overseas, and security clearances you couldn't buy. Claire slid a folder across the table. These are his credentials. Bill barely glanced at the papers. And who exactly are you in this company? Before Claire could answer, the conference room door opened and Dylan Mitchell walked in. Claire's heart stopped. This meeting wasn't on his calendar. Mr. Crawford, I see you've met our new operational efficiency consultant. Dylan's smile was sharp as a blade. I trust Ms. Thompson is providing you with adequate justification for our contract review. The security representative's demeanor changed instantly. Of course, Mr. Mitchell. We're always happy to work with Tech Solutions to find mutually beneficial arrangements. Within an hour, SecureGuard had agreed to a 30% rate reduction and offered Marcus Williams a position as their on-site coordinator at Tech Solutions, essentially paying him to do the same job for 20% more money. After Bill left, Dylan remained in the conference room with Claire. "Operational efficiency consultant?" she asked. "Would you prefer cleaning lady with delusions of grandeur?" Dylan's tone was dry but not unkind. "You've saved us $5,400 monthly in 2 days. I figured you deserved a title that opens doors instead of closing them." Wednesday brought the supply waste investigation, which led to Claire's most shocking discovery yet. The cleaning supply vendor had been overcharging by 40% for 3 years, with invoices signed by someone named J. Patterson, a name that didn't appear anywhere in Tech Solutions' employee directory. Thursday's revelation was even more disturbing. The external meeting expenses weren't just wasteful. They were suspicious. 60% of the charges were for meetings that involved only 2 people, the vendors themselves. Tech Solutions was essentially paying for their contractors to wine and dine each other. By Friday morning, Claire had documented over $30,000 in monthly savings with implementation plans for each item. But her most important discovery came Thursday night, when she was working late in the accounting department. She found the smoking gun that would change everything. What explosive secret did Claire uncover that would shake Tech Solutions to its core? Friday afternoon, Claire stood outside the executive boardroom wearing a simple black suit she'd purchased during her lunch break. The cleaning cart was nowhere in sight. Today, she wasn't the help. She was the presenter. Through the glass walls, she could see the 5 board members assembling around the mahogany table. These were the power brokers: Harrison Webb, the CFO, Margaret Chen, head of operations, David Kumar, legal counsel, Patricia Voss, marketing director, and Dylan Mitchell at the head of the table. Sandra Martinez appeared beside her, straightening Claire's collar like a mother sending her child to the first day of school. "You got this, Mija. Show them what we're made of." Claire took a deep breath and entered the boardroom. "Gentlemen, Margaret." She nodded to each board member. "Thank you for your time." Harrison Webb checked his Rolex conspicuously. "We have 15 minutes, Ms. Thompson, Claire Thompson, and I'll need 12 minutes to change how this company operates, 3 minutes for your questions." She connected her laptop to the presentation system. Robert Davis had helped her prepare the slides during his suspension. The first image appeared, Tech Solutions logo alongside the words "Profit through efficiency." "In 5 days, I've identified $64,000 in annual waste, but that's not why I'm here." Claire clicked to the next slide, a pie chart showing expense categories. "I'm here because I discovered something that makes that waste look like pocket change." Margaret Chen leaned forward. "What did you find?" Claire's next slide showed a comparison chart. Internal costs versus outsourced costs for the same services. "Our cleaning department. We employ 8 full-time cleaners at an average of $10 per hour. Monthly cost, $12,800. "We know our own payroll," Harrison interrupted, "but you don't know Clean Pro Solutions' invoice breakdown." Claire's next slide showed a detailed analysis of the outsourcing contract. Clean Pro charges us $18,000 monthly for the same square footage. They pay their employees $850 per hour and pocket the difference. We're paying 40% more for worse service. David Kumar, the lawyer, suddenly looked very interested. "How much worse service?" 60% turnover rate, minimal training, no background checks, and—" Claire paused for effect. "No accountability for building security during off hours." Patricia Voss spoke up. "What does this have to do with the layoffs?" Claire clicked to her final slide. A comprehensive restructuring plan. Everything. Instead of firing 3 experienced employees to save $36,000 annually, we could eliminate Clean Pro, bring all services in-house, and save $216,000 annually while providing better service and creating 6 additional jobs. The silence in the room was absolute. Harrison found his voice first. "That's impossible." "We've had legal review that contract." "Yes, you have." Claire turned to David Kumar. "Councillor Kumar, when was the last time Clean Pro's contract was reviewed for performance metrics?" David's face went pale. "Performance metrics weren't. We focused on cost containment." And who recommended Clean Pro Solutions originally? Dylan's voice cut through the tension. I did. 3 years ago. He was studying Claire's presentation with the intensity of a man watching his assumptions crumble. They came highly recommended by our previous CFO. Claire nodded. Jonathan Patterson. Harrison Webb's coffee cup clattered to the table. How do you know that name? Because J. Patterson has been signing vendor invoices for services that don't exist. $37,000 over 8 months. Services billed to a company that fired him 2 years ago. Claire's voice was steady, professional, deadly. Gentleman, Margaret, you don't have an efficiency problem. You have a fraud problem. What bombshell will Claire drop next that will change everything? The boardroom erupted into controlled chaos. Harrison Webb was frantically typing on his phone, calling up financial records. Margaret Chen was taking rapid notes. David Kumar looked like he was calculating legal exposure. Patricia Voss stared at Claire with something approaching awe. Dylan Mitchell stood slowly, his face unreadable. Ms. Thompson, are you suggesting that Jonathan Patterson, our former CFO, who was terminated for cause 2 years ago, has been embezzling from this company? I'm not suggesting anything, Mr. Mitchell. I'm presenting documentation. Claire handed each board member a folder. Invoice signatures, service dates that don't match actual work performed, and vendor contact information that traces back to shell companies. Harrison opened his folder and immediately paled. These signatures... David, we need to call the FBI. Hold on, Dylan raised his hand. Before we involve law enforcement, I want to understand exactly what Ms. Thompson is proposing. Claire had been waiting for this moment all week. Everything had led to this. The layoffs, the waste analysis, the fraud discovery. This was her chance to save not just 3 jobs, but to revolutionize how tech solutions operated. My proposal has 3 phases, she began, clicking to a new presentation she'd prepared. Phase 1, immediate cost recovery and fraud prevention. We terminate all contracts signed by Patterson or his proxies, renegotiate with legitimate vendors, and implement oversight protocols. Net annual savings, $190,000. Margaret Chen was taking notes furiously. Phase 2, strategic human resources restructuring. We bring cleaning, basic IT support, and building security in-house. We promote from within, provide training and development, and create career advancement pathways. Net annual savings, $94,000. More importantly, we reduce turnover, improve service quality, and build employee loyalty. Patricia looked up from her notes. And Phase 3? Claire smiled. Innovation and efficiency optimization. We implement employee suggestion systems, cross-training programs, and performance-based incentives. We treat every employee as a potential solution, not a cost center. Conservative estimate, $150,000 annual savings through improved efficiency. Dylan was studying her with an expression she couldn't read. And who would oversee this 3-phase transformation? This was it. The moment that would either launch her career or end it. I would, sir, as Operations and Human Resources Manager. Harrison laughed, actually laughed. You want to go from cleaning floors to managing operations? Claire turned to face him directly. Mr. Webb, in 5 days I identified and solved problems that cost this company nearly $500,000 annually. I uncovered fraud that your entire accounting department missed. I negotiated better contracts than your procurement team, and I did it while working 40-hour weeks in my regular position. Her voice was calm, factual. What exactly disqualifies me from the job besides the uniform I used to wear? The silence stretched uncomfortably long. Finally, Dylan spoke. What salary are you requesting? Claire had rehearsed this moment 100 times. $3,400 monthly, plus performance bonuses tied to cost savings achieved. That's a 340% increase over your current pay, Margaret observed. That's what the position is worth, Claire replied. Check comparable salaries for operations managers in Atlanta. I'm actually asking for 20% below market rate. Dylan looked around the table at his board members. All in favor of Claire Thompson's appointment as Operations and Human Resources Manager. One by one, hands rose around the table. Harrison Webb was the last, but even he eventually raised his hand with a rueful smile. Ms. Thompson, Dylan said formally, congratulations, you start Monday. Your first assignment is to rehire Marcus Williams, Dorothy Brown, and Robert Davis. Claire felt tears threatening but held them back. Thank you, all of you. I won't let you down. As the board members filed out, Dylan remained behind. Thompson? Yes, sir? That was either the most impressive presentation I've ever seen or the most elaborate con game in corporate history. Claire smiled. I guess we'll find out on Monday, won't we? But can Claire actually deliver on all her promises, or has she bitten off more than she can chew? Monday morning at 7 a.m., Claire sat in her new office, a modest space on the 6th floor with a view of downtown Atlanta and a desk that actually belonged to her. The nameplate read, Claire Thompson, Operations and Human Resources Manager. She'd stared at it for 10 minutes, still unable to believe it was real. Her first phone call was to Marcus Williams. When he answered, she could hear cartoons playing in the background, his son watching morning TV before therapy. Marcus, it's Claire Thompson from Tech Solutions. His voice went flat. If this is about my final paycheck, it's about your new position. Internal Security Coordinator, $1,280 monthly, full benefits including specialized medical coverage for your son. Can you start Wednesday? The silence lasted so long Claire wondered if the call had dropped. Claire, are you serious? Dead serious. And Marcus, you'll be working directly with me to restructure our entire security approach. I need someone I trust. Her second call went to Dorothy Brown, whose voice was hoarse from crying when she answered. Dorothy, it's Claire. I have news. Oh, honey, if this is about charity, we'll manage. It's about your new job. Cleaning and maintenance supervisor, $1,120 monthly plus educational assistance for your grandchildren. Interested? The sound that came through the phone was somewhere between a sob and a laugh. Her third call was to Robert Davis, who answered professionally despite being reached on his home phone. Robert, pack up your textbooks. You're about to become our IT and support assistant at $1,200 monthly, with paid study time for your civil service exam. Claire, what did you do? I did what I promised. I proved their value. By Wednesday, Claire's team was complete, but the real work was just beginning. The first department meeting was held in the same conference room where she'd negotiated the security contract. Marcus, Dorothy, and Robert sat around the table with Sandra Martinez, who had been promoted to Facilities Operations Supervisor with a 20% raise. Here's what we're going to do, Claire began, spreading architectural plans across the table. We're going to transform how this company thinks about support services. She pointed to the building schematics. 40 floors, 200,000 square feet, 350 employees. Right now, cleaning happens after hours by people who've never seen the space during business operations. Security happens by guards who don't know the employees or the building's vulnerabilities. IT support happens by external contractors who charge premium rates for basic problems. Dorothy raised her hand tentatively. What are you proposing? Claire smiled. Integration. Dorothy, you're going to train a team that cleans and maintains during business hours, becoming part of the daily operation instead of invisible afterthoughts. You'll know which departments are busiest, which equipment needs attention, which employees need extra support. She turned to Marcus. Security isn't just about guarding doors. You'll work with HR to understand employee concerns, with IT to identify vulnerability points, with facilities to ensure safety protocols are followed. Finally, she looked at Robert. And you'll bridge the gap between our high-tech needs and practical solutions. No more paying consultants $400 to reset passwords. Sandra leaned forward. This sounds incredible, but how do we prove it works? Claire had been waiting for this question. Pilot program. We start with floors 15 through 20. 5 floors, 60 employees. We implement full integration for 30 days, track every metric, document every improvement, and then present results to the board. Over the next month, Claire's team worked with precision and passion. Dorothy's integrated cleaning approach reduced supply costs by 30% while improving workspace quality. Marcus identified 12 security vulnerabilities that external guards had missed and implemented solutions that saved the company from potential breaches. Robert solved 47 IT issues in-house, saving an average of $300 per incident. But the most significant change was cultural. Employees on the pilot floors began treating support staff as colleagues rather than invisible service providers. Productivity increased by 8%, sick days decreased by 15%, and employee satisfaction scores hit company highs. Dylan Mitchell toured the pilot floors on Friday of the 4th week, observing the transformation with amazement. "Thompson, this is remarkable," he said, watching Robert explain a software solution to a marketing team while Dorothy coordinated with the facilities staff to accommodate a last-minute conference setup. "But can it scale?" Claire looked out the window at the Atlanta skyline, then back at Dylan. "Mr. Mitchell, we're not just scaling a program, we're scaling a philosophy." What challenges await as Claire tries to implement her vision company-wide? Not everyone at Tech Solutions was thrilled with Claire's rapid ascension. The resistance came to a head during the monthly management meeting in October, when Claire presented her proposal to expand the pilot program company-wide. Regional manager Gary Hoffman had been with Tech Solutions for 12 years and clearly resented taking direction from someone he'd seen emptying his trash can just months earlier. "With all due respect," Gary began, his tone suggesting no respect whatsoever, "we're talking about handing significant operational control to people with no management experience." Claire had expected this. She'd prepared for this. "Mr. Hoffman, could you clarify what management experience you're referring to? Traditional business education, proven track record, established leadership? You mean like Dorothy Brown, who's been managing household finances and 3 grandchildren for 4 years while working 2 jobs?" Claire's voice remained pleasant, professional. "Or Marcus Williams, who managed military security operations for 8 years, including overseas deployments." Margaret Chen, now one of Claire's strongest supporters, added, "Gary, the pilot program results speak for themselves. 8% productivity increase, 15% reduction in sick days, 97% employee satisfaction rating." But Gary wasn't finished. "What about when things go wrong? When real management decisions need to be made? These people—" "Stop!" Dylan's voice cut through the tension like a sword. "Gary, finish that sentence." The room went silent. Everyone knew what Gary had been about to say, and everyone knew how toxic it would have been. Gary's face flushed red. "I simply meant—" "You meant that competence is determined by background rather than results," Claire said quietly. "I understand that perspective. I used to clean your office, so I know exactly what you think of people like me." She stood and walked to the presentation screen, pulling up detailed financial reports. "But let me show you what these people have accomplished." Her presentation was devastating in its precision: cost savings, efficiency improvements, employee retention, customer satisfaction. Every metric supported her approach. 6 months ago, Marcus Williams was cleaning floors for $10 an hour. Today, he identified a security vulnerability that could have cost us millions in data breaches. Dorothy Brown went from emptying trash cans to designing waste reduction protocols that save us $22,000 annually. Robert Davis transformed from night janitor to systems analyst, solving problems that were costing us hundreds of thousands in consulting fees. She clicked to her final slide, a company-wide organizational chart showing current positions filled by internal promotions versus external hires. 43 employees promoted from within in 6 months. Average productivity increase across all departments, 12%. Employee turnover down 67%. And our profit margins are up 23%. Harrison Webb, who had initially been skeptical, was now one of Claire's biggest advocates. "Gary, what exactly are you objecting to? Results?" Gary's resistance crumbled. It's happening so fast." Claire's expression softened. "Change is scary. I know that better than anyone. 6 months ago, I was terrified that I'd spend my entire career invisible and undervalued. But sometimes fast change is the only way to fix broken systems." She looked around the table at faces that had gone from skepticism to support over the past months. "We're not just changing job descriptions. We're changing lives. Marcus's son is getting the therapy he needs. Dorothy's grandchildren are getting educational support. Robert passed his civil service exam and is choosing to stay here because he believes in what we're building." Dylan nodded slowly. "All in favor of company-wide implementation?" Every hand went up, including Gary's. After the meeting, Dylan asked Claire to stay behind. "Thompson, I need to ask you something, and I want an honest answer." Claire braced herself. "Of course. How did you know? How did you see potential in people that everyone else had written off?" Claire considered her answer carefully. "Because someone saw potential in me. My night school professor, Dr. Williams." told me that intelligence doesn't have a dress code. Sandra Martinez believed in me when I was just another cleaning lady. And ultimately, you gave me a chance when you could have just fired me." She paused, looking out the window at the city below. "But mostly, I knew because I've been underestimated my entire life. I know what it feels like to have more to offer than people are willing to see. Once you've experienced that, you start recognizing it everywhere." Dylan was quiet for a long moment. "For what it's worth, Thompson, you've taught me more about leadership in 6 months than I learned in 15 years of business school." "What's that?" "That the best leaders aren't the ones who have all the answers. They're the ones who know how to find answers in other people. As Claire's influence grows, what new challenges will test her revolutionary approach?" 8 months after her promotion, Claire Thompson stood before a packed auditorium at Emory University's business school, delivering a keynote address titled "Hidden Talents, Transforming Organizations from Within." The irony wasn't lost on her. She was speaking to MBA students and corporate executives about the same principles she'd learned while scrubbing floors and emptying trash cans. "Leadership isn't about commanding from above," she told the audience. "It's about seeing potential where others see problems, finding solutions where others see obstacles, and building bridges where others see barriers." In the front row, Dr. Williams, her former night school professor, beamed with pride. Sandra Martinez sat beside him, elegant in a new dress and the confidence that came with her recent promotion to Director of Facilities Management. After the presentation, Claire was approached by a reporter from Atlanta Business Journal. "Miss Thompson, your story has become legendary in corporate circles, but critics argue that your success is an anomaly, not a reproducible model. How do you respond?" Claire smiled. "I'd invite those critics to visit Tech Solutions. Our model has been replicated by 12 companies across 3 states, all with similar results. When you treat employees as assets rather than expenses, when you look for talent in unexpected places, when you measure success by human development as well as financial returns, that's not an anomaly. That's good business." The reporter scribbled notes quickly. "What's next for you professionally?" "I'm working on a book called The View from Below: Leadership Lessons from the Ground Up. All proceeds will fund scholarships for non-traditional students pursuing business education." Claire's voice carried quiet pride. "We're also launching the Tech Solutions Leadership Academy, providing management training for employees regardless of their current position." The following week, Claire received a call that would change everything once again. "Ms. Thompson, this is Amanda Richardson from Fortune magazine. We'd like to feature you in our 40 under 40 list of rising business leaders." Claire nearly dropped the phone. Fortune magazine, the same publication she used to read during lunch breaks, dreaming of a world where she belonged in those pages. The photo shoot took place in her office, but Claire insisted on including shots in the building's ground floor, where her journey had begun. The photographer captured her standing beside her old cleaning cart, now displayed in the lobby as a symbol of transformation. The article, titled "From Janitor to Executive, Claire Thompson's Revolutionary Rise," became one of the magazine's most shared stories that year. But the recognition that meant the most came from an unexpected source. Dylan Mitchell found her in her office late one Friday evening, working on quarterly reports. "Thompson, go home. That's an order from your CEO." Claire looked up from her laptop. "Just finishing the Q3 analysis. Profits are up 31%, if you're curious." "I'm curious about something else," Dylan said, settling into the chair across from her desk. "Do you remember what you said to me the day you stormed into my office?" "I said a lot of things. You'll need to be more specific." Dylan smiled. "You said competence has nothing to do with uniforms. You proved that. But you also said something else, that you wanted to prove that a company can be profitable and human simultaneously." Claire nodded, remembering that desperate moment that felt like a lifetime ago. "Well, congratulations. We're not just profitable. We're proof that treating employees as partners rather than expenses creates success for everyone." Dylan pulled out a document and placed it on her desk. "Which is why I'm offering you a partnership." Claire stared at the papers. "Partnership agreement, 15% ownership stake. Her name listed as Chief Operations Partner." "Dylan, I don't know what to say." "Say yes. You've earned it. Hell, you've earned more than this. But corporate lawyers say I can't give you my entire company. Much as you deserve it." Claire's eyes filled with tears, the first time she'd allowed herself to cry since this journey began. "Yes, absolutely yes." As they shook hands, Dylan added, "There's one condition." Claire's heart stopped. "What condition?" "Promise me you'll never stop seeing potential in people that others miss. That's your superpower, Thompson. Don't lose it as you climb higher." What new horizons await Claire as she reaches heights she never imagined possible? 1 year later, Claire stood in the lobby of Tech Solutions at 6 a.m., watching the morning shift arrive. But now she saw them differently, not as employees, but as potential leaders, innovators, and problem solvers waiting to be discovered. James Patterson, no relation to the former CFO, approached her with nervous energy. He was part of the night cleaning crew, a college student working to pay for engineering classes. "Ms. Thompson, I had an idea about the HVAC system efficiency, but I wasn't sure who to talk to." Claire smiled. "James, you're talking to the right person. Tell me your idea." 10 minutes later, she was walking James to the engineering department to meet with the facilities team. His proposal for optimizing building temperatures based on occupancy patterns could save Tech Solutions $40,000 annually. This had become her routine, walking the floors, talking to employees at every level, looking for the next breakthrough idea, the next hidden talent, the next Claire Thompson, who just needed someone to believe in them. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sandra. "Board meeting in 20, don't be late, partner." The word partner still gave Claire chills. She'd gone from cleaning lady to business owner in 18 months, but more importantly, she'd helped dozens of others find their own paths to advancement. The board meeting was routine now: profit reports, expansion plans, new initiatives. Tech Solutions had become the fastest-growing technology services company in the Southeast, but they'd maintained their commitment to developing internal talent. "Our employee advancement program has promoted 67 people in the past year," Claire reported. "Average salary increase for promoted employees is 43%. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high, and our turnover rate is the lowest in the industry." Margaret Chen raised her hand. "Claire, we've had inquiries from 3 major corporations wanting to implement similar programs. Are we interested in consulting opportunities?" Claire had been expecting this question. "I've been thinking about that. What if we took it a step further?" Dylan leaned forward with interest. "What do you have in mind?" Thompson Leadership Institute, a non-profit organization that helps companies identify and develop overlooked talent. "We provide assessment tools, training programs, and implementation support." Claire pulled out a proposal she'd been working on for months. Full-time operations would be funded by consulting fees, but we'd also provide free services to smaller companies and non-profits. Harrison Webb studied the numbers. "This could be very profitable." "That's not the primary goal," Claire said. "The goal is to replicate what we've done here across hundreds of organizations. To prove that this approach works everywhere, not just at Tech Solutions." The vote was unanimous. After the meeting, Claire walked down to the ground floor, where her original cleaning cart was displayed behind glass with a plaque, "Where excellence begins, every employee has potential." Marcus Williams found her there, as he often did during their informal check-ins. "Penny for your thoughts, boss?" Claire laughed. "I was thinking about that day 18 months ago when I thought my life was over. When Dylan fired you, Dorothy and Robert, I was convinced the world was ending. And now? Now I realize it was beginning." She looked around the bustling lobby, filled with employees who no longer saw barriers between management and staff, but instead saw colleagues and collaborators. "Marcus, do you ever think about where you'd be if none of this had happened?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. "My son starts mainstream classes next month. Dorothy's granddaughter got into Georgia Tech with a full scholarship. Robert's been accepted to the FBI Academy." He smiled. "I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be." Claire's assistant approached with a message. "Ms. Thompson, there's someone here to see you. Says she's a cleaning lady with a business proposal." Claire's heart leaped. "Send her up to my office immediately." What surprise awaits Claire as her journey comes full circle? The woman sitting across from Claire's desk was 24 years old, with tired eyes and calloused hands, wearing a faded cleaning uniform from Metro Office Services. Her name was Maria Santos, and she was holding a manila folder with the same nervous determination Claire remembered from her own pivotal moment. "Ms. Thompson, I know this sounds crazy, but I think I can save my company $200,000 a year. Claire felt like she was looking into a mirror of her past. Tell me more, Maria. For the next hour, Maria presented her analysis of Metro office services with the same meticulous attention to detail Claire had brought to tech solutions. Vendor overcharges, supply waste, inefficient scheduling, missed opportunities, all documented with the precision of someone who had been watching and learning while being invisible. I have a business degree too, Maria said quietly. Night school at Atlanta Community College, but when I tried to talk to my supervisor about these ideas, she told me to focus on mopping floors, not running the company. Claire's blood boiled with familiar anger. Maria, what exactly are you asking me to do? I want you to call my CEO. Tell him what you did here. Maybe he'll listen to you. Maria's voice cracked with desperation. I have 2 kids, Ms. Thompson. I can't afford to lose this job, but I can't afford to watch them struggle while I know I could help the company be better. Claire stood and walked to her window, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. Somewhere out there were hundreds, maybe thousands of Maria Santoses, brilliant, capable people trapped by circumstances and others' limited vision. She turned back to Maria with a smile. I have a better idea. 3 days later, Claire walked into Metro Office Services corporate headquarters with Maria beside her. But this time Maria wasn't wearing a cleaning uniform. She wore a professional suit and carried herself with the confidence of someone who belonged in boardrooms. Claire had spent the weekend coaching Maria on presentation skills, helping her refine her proposals, and making strategic introductions. More importantly, she'd called Metro's CEO personally. Mr. Rodriguez, this is Claire Thompson from Tech Solutions. I have someone I'd like you to meet. The meeting was everything Claire hoped it would be. Maria's presentation was flawless, her solutions brilliant, her potential undeniable. By the end of the hour, Maria Santos had been promoted to operations analyst with a 60% salary increase and the authority to implement her efficiency proposals. As they left the Metro building, Maria turned to Claire with tears in her eyes. Why did you do this for me? You don't even know me. Claire remembered asking Sandra the same question years earlier. Because someone did it for me. And because recognizing talent in others is the most important skill anyone can learn. That evening, Claire sat in her home office working on her book manuscript. The chapter she was writing was titled, Creating a Culture of Possibility, and Maria's story would be its centerpiece. Her phone rang. Dylan's name appeared on the screen. Thompson, I just got off the phone with Miguel Rodriguez at Metro Office Services. He's raving about some miracle worker you sent him. Says she's already identified ways to save them $250,000 annually. Claire smiled. Just paying it forward. Is this going to become a thing? You turning other companies into talent incubators? Dylan, this isn't just going to become a thing. This is going to become the thing. Claire closed her laptop and looked out at the city lights. We're going to change how business works in America. One overlooked employee at a time. The next morning brought news that would validate everything Claire had been building. Fortune magazine called to inform her that Tech Solutions had been named one of the best companies to work for in America, and Claire personally had been selected for the magazine's Most Powerful Women in Business list. But the recognition that meant the most came in an email from Dr. Williams, her former night school professor. Claire, I've been following your incredible journey with pride and amazement. You've become everything I hoped you could be, and more than I ever imagined was possible. But what impresses me most is that you haven't forgotten where you came from or who helped you along the way. That's the mark of true leadership. Your father would be so proud. Claire printed the email and framed it, placing it beside her Fortune magazine cover on the office wall. She had traveled an impossible distance from that desperate moment in Dylan's office. But looking back, she realized the journey was just beginning. What final transformation awaits as Claire's story reaches its powerful conclusion? 5 years after walking into Dylan Mitchell's office as a desperate cleaning lady, Claire Thompson stood at the podium of the Georgia World Congress Center, addressing 1,500 business leaders at the Southeast Leadership Summit. The speech she was giving had been requested by companies across the country who wanted to understand the Tech Solutions model. But Claire knew it was bigger than one company, one story, or one person's success. Ladies and gentlemen, transformation isn't about changing people, she said, her voice carrying to the back of the auditorium. It's about changing how we see people. Behind her, A massive screen displayed the Thompson Leadership Institute's impact statistics. Over 200 companies implementing talent recognition programs, 15,000 employees promoted from within participating organizations, and an average productivity increase of 18% across all client companies. But the numbers that mattered most to Claire weren't on the screen. They lived in the stories. Marcus Williams now headed security for 3 Tech Solutions locations and was pursuing a master's degree in criminal justice. His son had graduated from mainstream high school with honors. Dorothy Brown had become a regional facilities manager, overseeing operations across 7 office buildings. Her grandchildren were thriving academically, and she'd started a scholarship fund for children of service workers. Robert Davis had turned down the FBI position to become Tech Solutions' Chief Technology Officer, earning more than he'd ever dreamed possible while implementing innovative systems that other companies now studied. Sandra Martinez led the Thompson Leadership Institute's training division and had been featured in Harvard Business Review as an expert on employee development. And Maria Santos? She'd just been named CEO of Metro Office Services after transforming the company so dramatically that their parent corporation offered her a position overseeing 10 subsidiaries. After her presentation, Claire was approached by a familiar figure, Gary Hoffman, the manager who had initially resisted her ideas. "Claire, I owe you an apology," he said. "And more than that, I owe you thanks." Claire smiled. "Gary, you don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do. My resistance to your ideas wasn't about business, it was about fear. Fear that recognizing talent in unexpected places would diminish my own value." Gary's voice was humble, sincere. "But watching what you've built, seeing how you've lifted up everyone around you, you didn't diminish anyone. You made all of us better." That evening, Claire sat in her penthouse apartment overlooking downtown Atlanta, reviewing the final proofs of her book. The View from Below would be published next month by Harvard Business School Press, with proceeds funding scholarships for non-traditional business students. Dylan called just as she was closing the laptop. "Thompson, I just saw the pre-order numbers for your book. 10,000 copies before it's even published." "The message resonates with people," Claire said. "Everyone knows someone whose talent is being wasted, whose potential is being overlooked." "Speaking of potential," Dylan's voice carried excitement, "I have news. Tech Solutions just received an acquisition offer from Morrison Industries, $250 million. Claire's breath caught. Her 15% stake would be worth over $37 million. "Dylan, that's incredible, but there's a condition. They want you to lead the integration of all their Southeast operations. Essentially, you'd be running a $500 million division." Claire walked to her floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city where her journey had begun. Somewhere down there, in office buildings and shops and service companies, were the next generation of overlooked talents waiting for their chance. "I need time to think about it." "Take all the time you need, but Claire, whatever you decide, you've already changed everything. The ripple effects of what you started here are going to be felt for decades." After ending the call, Claire opened her laptop one more time and began typing. The greatest tragedy in business isn't failed products or missed opportunities. It's wasted human potential. Every day in companies across America, brilliant minds are cleaning floors, answering phones, stocking shelves, invisible to leaders who can't see past job titles to recognize talent. But transformation is possible. It starts with one person willing to see differently, one opportunity offered to someone unexpected, one moment when someone says, "Your ideas matter," to a person who's never been asked for ideas before. The view from below isn't just different, it's essential. Because that's where the solutions are hiding, in the minds of people who understand problems from the ground up, who see waste because they're asked to clean it up, who know inefficiency because they're forced to work around it every day. My story isn't unique. It's just one example of what happens when someone is finally seen for who they really are, rather than what their circumstances suggest they should be. The question isn't whether there are Claire Thompsons in your organization. The question is, are you looking for them? Claire closed the laptop and smiled. Tomorrow she would give Dylan her answer about the acquisition. But tonight, she would savor the knowledge that a cleaning lady from Atlanta had become living proof that competence has no dress code, talent recognizes no hierarchy, and with the right opportunity, anyone can change the world. The little girl who used to dream about working in the tall buildings of downtown Atlanta had not only made it inside, she had transformed what it meant to belong there. And her story was just the beginning.